Well, it's Sunday night, and my poofy-haired wife is in the background.
My hair is poofy.
So,
This is my pocket. There it is.
all right. What did we get to here? We got to the point where people are getting mowed down. No, I just turned it off because it's 22 degrees in here.
Okay.
It is not cold in here at all.
I'm cold. Oh,
No, you're
so
always
warm.
cold. You're always cold. Sit down.
I'm sitting.
Oh my god.
You tell me to sit, then I won't want it. Stand up.
All right then. Don't you dare make me food right now. All right. Let's see. So we're up to the next scene. John is free. There are men all around him, but he feels his muscles strain and feels no pressure at all shortly thereafter. He's free, but he needs to remain as still as possible. He can't fight all these soldiers off at once. Sabel said he left 20, but there are more on levels below them, and they'll be here quickly if he reveals he's in imprisoned state no more. Across from John is Carissa, and one of the Altilian scientists has started attaching sensors to her forehead. He doesn't want to know what their plans are, and she's powerless to stop them. The scientist seems to enjoy her struggle, though with Altilian features it's hard to tell happy from indifferent. They aren't singers either, so there is no audible way to tell if this creature's happy. Mike looks over at John and Carissa, desperate to be free as the soldier approaches him, gun drawn. "This is Rich," the soldier says with a heavy lisp. "Mike Translow is this big hero to so many, and yet he's here powerless against me and my little gun here. One shot, you're dead. One shot and the galaxy mourns the passing of just another hero who can't cut it when it counts. That is, if we even admit you died here. You might just be written off as having disappeared. Then you're just gone. Your place in history would be erased. You're quite the hero threatening to shoot a defenseless man. If I wasn't stuck here, this conversation would be a bit shorter and you wouldn't be so smug," Mike says, managing a wry smile despite his predicament. The soldier takes a step closer and raises the barrel of his gun to Mike's eye level. "Where do I shoot first? There's so many possibilities. See, I don't proclaim to be a hero, so I can pretty much do whatever I want. In the end, I win and I get to tell the story of how the little standoff went down." John lifts his foot so Carissa can see it, aware that Mike has distracted most of the nearby soldiers with this conversation. John shakes his head at Carissa as if to tell her how to react. She nods slightly as he puts his foot down on the floor. He moves the other foot and looks down. Wasn't wise of them to leave him armed like this. They hadn't counted on anyone being able to free themselves as he has. That's what arrogance gets you. With lightning fast speed, John pulls his gun, kills the scientist and other two Altilians closest to him. He then shoots the machine holding Carissa, still taking out the control panel on its right side, before doing the same to Mike's. Mike steps forward, draws his gun, and vaporizes the stunned and frightened Altilian he's been exchanging witty banter with moments ago. "The hero always wins," Mike says with a nod towards John. The nearby Altilians draw their weapons, and it's 3 against a lot. Mike gulps hard as he considers the long odds, and then a series of black shapes appear in the room. Mike counts at least 24, and he grins ear to ear as Falteri's forces come through military-issued wormhole devices, and the tide begins a major turn. "Holy crap," Carissa says as a row of armed men start firing back and forth with the Altilian soldiers. She then sees a blue creature stepping through one of the wormholes into the arcology. "What the hell is that?" "I hope he's friendly," John says, not sure where to shoot or what to do right now. They've suddenly become unnecessary in the big picture of this battle. Mike lunges to the blue creature and hugs him, despite the shots being fired all around them. "My god, a blue angel came to save the day. I knew you'd find a way to help." Dradgen grins. "It's good to see you're well, old friend." "How may we assist our new commander?" he says with a wink. Say what?" Mike asks. "Just show us where the humans are," Dradgen says, laying a hand on Mike's shoulder. Mike motions for Dradgen to follow. John, Carissa, and 3 of the soldiers from Falteri's follow behind them. They run through the service tunnel and scurry quickly into the air vents, following the path Sabal had taken minutes earlier. Tunnels that had been a trial for them before were easily traveled now, as adrenaline did the work. It's not long before they see the gaping hole in the side of the vents where Mike is stuck, looking way down at the battle that's unfolding. "This is utter chaos, but no worries," Dradgen says cheerfully. "It's been a good day for him, and it's only going to get better in his eyes. If they've been able to take over Kale's office, they can do anything now." "Sabal," Mike says quietly and raises his weapon. He tries to squeeze off a shot, but there are too many innocent bystanders running in front of it. It's not worth the risk, so he has to get closer and try to get that clean shot at the target. One of the soldiers throws down a rope connected to a grappling hook and rappels down into the battle with another 2 close behind. In the confusion and mass of bodies, the Altilians don't even see the infiltrators coming down the wall. Laser shots are fired and Altilians start to drop like flies. Mike starts to rappel down the rope to the floor. He's determined to take Sabal down. This is an evil monster who has the potential to become the leader of Altil and a major thorn in the side of his people. He can't be allowed to escape alive, and Mike wants to kill him while the cameras continue to film the carnage. He couldn't wait to hear how Cale Rightly tried to spin this against him and their own forces. As Mike sprints across the room towards Sabal, the Altilian commander turns, sees Mike coming. He fires a shot, which misses high, and then opts to run the other way. Rather than try to fire a second, Sabal fires through the crowd and gets onto an elevator. Door closes just as Mike gets there, so Mike does what any rational soldier would do and shoots the door to the elevator shaft to bits before jumping into the shaft itself. He knows where Sabel's going. In Arcology 443, dubbed New Orleans, there's been a massive body count at the bottom of the Arcology. There had been a massive body count at the bottom of the Arcology. Though the glass was pretty near invincible against any weapon from Earth, Altilian weapons were much stronger, and now that their cover was blown, they could blow at the bottom of the Arcology and cause an explosive decompression, one which could doom most of the place thanks to the lack of a safety system against such an attempt. There was no way to isolate any one level from another. Mike manages to land on top of the elevator and holds on for dear life as it quickly descends. The level numbers are flying past and Mike's certain he's right. If it does reach the bottom level and lurches to a halt, Mike then shoots through the ceiling of the elevator to attack Sabal and finds no one there. It does reach the bottom level and lurches to a halt. There we go. He jumps down into the elevator expecting to be taken by surprise. Altilians love to ambush an enemy. He instead gets no resistance. The doors open. He finds people frozen in place from their daily milling about. The battle on level 48 can't be heard from here, and Section C people are not likely to be on the rich guest list for that party. Anyone see an alien species run through here? Mike asks the hushed crowd, knowing just how crazy that question would sound to the people staring at him. He curses under his breath and no one says a word. If Sabal had emerged from the elevator, the people would either be dead, in a panic, or in a mix of both. Sabal had stepped into the elevator and then stepped off of it somehow while it was moving. Mike tried to wrap his brain around how this could possibly happen. There was no chance for him to exit on another floor while traveling down. His heart sinks as he pats himself down and realizes what happened. His pocket's empty and only one word he can manage, and it's home. Next scene. Dradgen stands before the shocked humans as the surviving Altilians are led away by his men. And they didn't kill all of them. There are only 3 enemy soldiers left and they're being taken away, soon to be sitting inside a prison cell on Falteres, where they'll become the first prisoners of war. This is going to lead to great shame for them, as their kind don't believe in surrender under any circumstances. It's been an amazing day. This is a lot for him to take in, so he can't imagine what's going on within the minds of the Earthlings who've become a part of this. "Hello," Dradgen says in as loud and friendly a voice as he can manage. "I am Dradgen, and I come to you from another world. I know how unreal this must seem, and first contact with your people was never supposed to be this abrupt or frightening. We are not here to harm you. Those creatures were. They'll be punished as prisoners of war. It's a war you people do not belong in." "Then kill them all," one of the Earthlings suggests. Dradgen winces, as this is too predictable of a response. "At the point where they surrendered, and with security cameras you have here, protocol dictates that we stop. We follow this as it separates us from them. My people were made into slaves and treated like animals. They've been humbled by their kind. We fight to be free, and I still cannot kill those soldiers out of vengeance. I become no better than they are if I do." "What the hell's going on here anyway?" one scared and angry woman asked. "This is why I wanted to be on the Carolina ecology, but no, we had to go to Winnipeg. Bunch of lazy asses making my life hell by not sending me to Carolina." This is a woman I worked with who I always threatened to send to Winnipeg. "I'll file a complaint about this. I come here and everyone goes crazy. Then I go to a party and nearly get killed. Carolina doesn't have these problems. Now some blue alien guy's telling me to be the bigger person after those fish people tried to kill everyone. I want to talk to someone in charge." Carolina's where we had a plant as well. So, and the idea of, she'll want to go to Carolina instead of Winnipeg. The woman's led away as Kristen Burren walks over to Dradgen and holds out her hand. He takes it and smiles. "You don't fear the unknown?" Not when the unknown saves my life. No, Kristen answers with a broad smile as a tear runs down her cheek. She then looks around the room and spots the blasted elevator door. I last saw Mike headed into the bloody elevator shaft. He was right after one of them. Must have wanted the guy pretty bad. Dradgeton looks to an officer at his right. Mike Translow went after Sabal. Find out what level that elevator got to, so we may assist him as soon as possible. Yes, sir, the young officer answers with a salute, and he takes 3 others with him in pursuit of Mike. You know the guy you went after, Kristen asks? I wish I didn't. Sabal is a very bad one amongst a group that are already pretty bad. He's without heart, born of pure hate. His brother was killed during the Altarian takeover, their invasion of my homeworld, where my people lost the war to his. After his brother's death, he changed for the worse, and he had already been pretty bad before that. He was even more cold, hate-filled than he'd been before. He swore to get revenge on my people and any allies we had. I was there when he was told about my brother's death, on an undercover mission. I heard it in passing, but it stuck with me. His facial expression stuck with me. His hate was almost an entity on itself. You could feel it, Dradgeton says with a shudder. He points to the elevator shaft. I hope Mike killed him. If not, it may be Mike who dies. Sabal scares me, and almost nothing scares me. I've seen so much in my life, things I want to prevent others from going through. Kristen looks towards the elevator shaft, and her heart sinks. She then looks around the room at the people filing out, the one raging woman still refusing to stop talking about how she should have been assigned to Carolina to avoid this entire mess. It's barely organized chaos around them. Nathan approaches Kristen and Dradgeton, shaking his head. This has to be a dream. Look at this mess. People dead everywhere. Vaporized. Like, what the hell happened here? It's a party one minute and a chaotic storm the next. I can't even fathom the amount of people we lost here. It has to be hundreds that got killed by those stupid things. What happens to us now? Meaning what? Dradgeton responds with a shrug. Those alien pricks came here, shot the hell out of this arcology, and killed who knows how many others on arcologies 443 and 652. They plan to kill all of us, exterminate the whole damn planet. I can't just go back to a normal job after that. They came here to kill us and took some of my friends down. I want to repay the favor to all of them. We all do, he says, pointing to the other surviving officers. Dradgeton nods his head and searches for the right words to say. He knows this feeling all too well, being sucked into a war that couldn't have been imagined. I can only tell you this. We welcome any help your world provides in this struggle. My people know how you are feeling right now. We know you're feeling too well, and I wish we didn't. We can't match your firepower. I don't know how we'll be of much help to you, Kristen says, holding up the gun that Mike had given her. That's where we can help. Today you proved your mettle as warriors. I would be honored to fight alongside you. Dradgeton gives them a compassionate smile. And that's it.
No.
Okay, that's it. It's the end of the book. You never find out if Mike's wife's okay or if what the plan was. So, alright, fine. Mike's racing up the stairs when he runs into officers running down. He stops in his tracks and grabs one of their personal transport devices. I need this, he says and turns it on. He presses a few buttons on it. A wormhole opens up. I have to get there before Sabal does, he explains, before diving through the wormhole and into an unknown fate. When he emerges on the other side, he finds he is just outside the base, nearest his home. This is what he had hoped was stored in the memory of the device he borrowed. He jumps to his feet and looks at the destruction around him. He can't dwell on what happened here, as he has to get home and without any delay. He runs through the wreckage of a shot-down Cordell ship and jumps onto the first personal craft he can find. Looks like it's in working order. He's never flown this fast, not at home. This is thankfully a ship that can fly a good speed with little risk of an accident, as he knows how much time is not on his side here. He sees his home and dives down towards it, almost clipping treetops on the way in. He jumps out before it can come to a complete stop and rushes into his home. The craft that brought him here screeching to a halt before it comes to a rest against a tree. The first thing he smells is smoke. He heads in the direction of the smell coming from and ends up in the kitchen where dinner's been burned. He takes the burned meat off the stove and tosses it into the sink before turning on the water and turning off the burner. He then heads out of the kitchen into the living room. Katie, he calls. His heart sinks when there's no answer. He rushes right back out the front door. He jumps back into his personal craft, well, the one that he stole anyways, and heads towards the nearest spaceport. If Sabal took her, he still needed a way off the planet. He may have used Mike's personal device to get here, but that was all he had. It wouldn't have had any Altilian locations programmed into its memory, and Mike was very thankful for that. Take me instead, he mutters as he flies as quickly as he can towards the spaceport. There are so many memories flooding his mind as he speeds towards what might be his destiny. He remembers their first date, the dramatic prom where they officially met, their wedding, the many dinners they've enjoyed together, the moonlight walks along the beach, watching the suns rise after a night of talking, and remembers the feeling of the breath on his cheek when she tells him that she loves him. He can't dwell on those things, but he can't really think of anything else right now. His brain's not behaving as he tries to keep his mind only on finding her. It is this which is driving him to fly faster towards what he hopes will be a rescue. It isn't sinking in yet that everything has changed. The years and years of inaction are over. Now, Altel's finally going to pay the price for what they've done to so many people. The greed they showed was starting to catch up to them. Security cameras on Arcology 1237 had all the proof anyone needed now. Media from Earth had been present, filming all the gory details of the fight which had occurred. Altelians were officially the enemy, and, knowing this, Mike had some hope that spaceport security might stop Sabal. As he reaches said spaceport, he sees flashing lights everywhere. It's on lockdown, and this can mean only one thing. Sabal wasn't making the swift getaway he'd planned. This wasn't well planned on his part at all, and Mike's thankful for that. He gets out of the craft and a security team member rushes over. Sorry, sir, this spaceport's locked down. Mike Translow, is all Mike says. Security team's member's eyes grow wide. I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you. How did this happen, sir? He asks as he leads Mike into the spaceport without any further argument. A slick fish monster got my personal device and used it to get into my house, Mike replies. Security team member is taken aback by Mike's language. I had to edit out some swearing, so that's why he was taken back by his yeah. When I did an update to this book, I took out there was a lot of cursing in it initially, so. Though this will quickly be attributed to hanging around with Earthlings too much. He's used to Kale's very complimentary and understanding tone regarding Altilians. He's in there, the man says, pointing to a sign that reads Port 442. Mike rushes in and sees Sabal there with a gun to Katie Translow's head, a sticky hand around her throat. Mike can't get a clean shot from here, so it's time to get him talking. You forget me, he calls out. Sabal actually smiles. Oh, you made it, I see, playing the hero. Mike shakes his head. I run the military now, fish monster. I hereby declare war on your whole damned humid world, my friend. Let's continue our discussion from earlier, now that I can move around on my own. Maybe some hand-to-hand, he suggests while moving forward, one finger on the trigger of his gun. Look how brash you are now. Your reign as leader is going to be a short one, he says, and the gun is moved from pointing at Katie's head to pointing at Mike's. The other's still on Katie's throat. Stupid fish, Mike says, and he fires. The shot doesn't hit Sabal, and it wasn't meant to. It instead hits the barrel of Sabal's gun and sends it flying out of his hands. Mike then runs at Sabal. Sabal actually shoves Katie into the way, and Mike deftly dodges his stumbling and coughing wife, then tackles Sabal into the wall with all the force he can muster. He takes his gun, points it at the temple of Sabal's head. Don't do it, Mike, Katie exclaims while she catches her breath. He wants to die like this, as a martyr, with so many people watching. You're the bigger man here. Your wife tells you what to do, does she? Sabal asks. Pull the trigger. Be a brave man, Michael. You've started a war your people can't finish. You know, I hate you so damn much for everything you stand for. I'd love for you to be with your brother in the Altilian afterlife, Mike says, and clocks Sabal with the butt end of his gun, knocking him out with that one strike. He then drops Sabal to the floor and goes over to his waiting wife and embraces her. Spaceport security then drags Sabal away into custody. You're still my hero, Mike Translow, Katie says with a wink. I'm no hero, just a man who loves his wife a lot, he says, and picks her up in his arms and carries her out. He knows she can walk out on her own, but he wants to feel like he's protecting her. Did he hurt you? She nods. Fish monster clocked me with a frying pan. The nice one, too. Dumb fish monster, Mike says, shaking his head while others look on. Fish monster was the words I used to replace two other very unkind words that were all the way throughout the scene. So I was like, well, instead of using MF, I'll just change that to fish monster. So, yeah, I cleaned it up a lot. He was mad. So, he was kind of sick of this. So, yeah, there you go.
That's not where you end it. That doesn't even make sense.
Well, it's because you get all the way into... all right. Okay, because then we get into one of my favorite characters here, who gets expanded on in the next book. Although there's been a request to stop at the first volume.
Yeah, and I told that person to be quiet.
So there was
He doesn't want to hear the other person. Don't watch the videos, but you can just shut your mouth.
Because we're almost to the end of the first volume here, and then that's it. So
I don't really care that these videos don't get very many views. I like you reading them. So.
They make like 20 cents.
I know. You're clearly not reading these to get more views and to help increase our ever dwindling income, but
they make 20 cents. All right, yeah, 20 cents.
See,
so
you
just
being
do the
an author is starting to pay off.
So if you just figure out, like, it's been a quarter of an hour so far, and if the video makes 20 cents, that's like
it's like a penny a minute.
That's 60,
yeah.
60 cents an hour. So
nice.
Makes sense. The last big pandemic was 100 years ago, and I'm getting paid like it's 100 years ago. So
see?
All right.
It all counts.
Yes. All right. Gora's watching a musical performance by Treyk. Treyk. And I can imagine people would probably mispronounce that a lot. An artist who has 4 arms, 4 legs. His kind have dark red skin with scales on it. They also have the ability to play music, dance, sing, perform magic tricks at the same time. Treyk's kind are the last known survivors from the conquered planet of Conley. It's a world Altil had destroyed, though they kept these creatures because they amused them, so in their abilities to multitask to an incredible degree. They perform now to avoid death. Altil is a world a world of extremely hot temperatures combined with extremely humid conditions, so there's so much swamp here. This favored the amphibious creatures like Gora's kind and wiped out anything else that tried to evolve here. Since Treyk doesn't do well under normal conditions, he has to perform and live in an enclosed space. He's truly a caged animal on Altil. Imprisoning creatures that were not like their own was standard practice for Gora and his people. They were different, and therefore they were inferior. They had to know their place in the hierarchy. This was their approach with everything. Treyk was not important enough to treat like he mattered, because he was different. Humans would be just as endangered and imprisoned where they could perform entertaining tricks for Altilians as well. There had been some fear in Gora regarding the assaults against the arcologies. When 652 went off without a hitch, he felt a little better. When 443 had gone off smoothly, he was starting to see how useful this changing of DNA could be, making humans kill each other or themselves, and this keeps their fingerprints off. Making humans kill each other or themselves helped them keep their fingerprints off the whole thing. Now he was confident this could finally be the way that he sees the end of the human parasite in a galaxy that has become more and more his with each passing day. He had been trained to be a leader from day one by his father Geyer. He had been told that he was special, that his people were special, and the world would follow him. He had been told that the rest of the galaxy was meant to fall in line because their gods demanded it. They were simply superior in every way a species could be superior. They could live on land or in the sea. They could manage physical feats no other species could, and they were so much more intellectually developed. Gora was a single man. He had yet to find that special female to settle down with, though he had started to feel the need to nest as he got older. He just had to find a mate who was suitable and up to his high standards. He had to pass on his genetic code to find a worthy female, and as he sat as a massive concert attended by over 100,000 of his kind, he wasn't sure there was a single female here who could measure up to his standards. They all had flaws which made them unsuitable as mates. His father had suffered for years in search for a mate as well. Altilian concert halls were located in the middle of lush swamps with filtered sunlight making its way through tall vines, strung up over hundreds of years to act as partial walls and for the effect of a concert hall. The seating was organic, each seat being an individual plant built somewhat like mushrooms from Earth's concepts, except they were green in color and were water-filled, so the seats took shape around the person sitting on them for what Altilians perceived to be maximum comfort, since they like damp and dark spaces. Once comfortable like this and enjoying the concert, his people knew better than to disturb him. Gora had made it clear anyone bothering him likely wouldn't live to see the end of the performance. He had to follow through on that threat only once before everybody learned their lesson. He rarely got to enjoy a performance by Treyk that he was vocal in his distaste for anyone disturbing such a moment. He was happy now, especially following his last visit to General Rightly. Humans could be turned, after all. Cale Rightly was a perfectly good lapdog, and with Sabel running things on the arcology, he had no doubt things would turn out well for their mission. Despite interference by Mike Translow, they had the manpower advantage and a leader on on the other side in their pocket. Sabal sometimes got out of line, but he was a good soldier when all things were considered. When Gora sees an officer heading towards him, shaking noticeably, he wonders if they're ill. They must have something wrong with them if they're going to distract him from Trake's big finale here. The eight-limbed wonder is going to play two instruments and sing while painting a fence made of dead Altarians. It's magnificent. Gets better every time Gora sees it. One lower life form painting on another as he sees it is art in motion. Never occurs to him how much Trake hates these performances, as he isn't really concerned with that. Sir, the soldier says nervously, and Altalian clicks. Never interrupt Trake, Gora says, pointing at the performer who's in the midst of the big finale. Until he's told to stop, he will do that which he is famous for, whether it sickens him to his stomach or not. He does have two stomachs, so the other will have to suffice until the first recovers. We're at war, the officer says, not knowing another way to say it. Gora manages to jump to his feet and then rushes out of the theater, pushing people out of his way, as he quickly makes his way to the exit. He leaves the officer standing where he had been, too frightened to follow the obviously enraged leader. The exit is a door made of vines and wood, which he tears through rather than opens. No one says anything regarding this destruction, of course. No one wants to die protesting the murder of a door. The Altilian leader says nothing as he heads to a shuttlecraft. He makes his way inside where he finds two of his generals are waiting for him. Gora takes a seat at the head of a makeshift conference room in the back of the shuttle, which has never needed to be used before. He takes a deep breath and tries to remain calm. Report. The two generals look at one another as if neither wants to go first. Sir, we have some news here, General Thill says nervously. War, apparently, and I want to know how this happens, Gora says. He wants to slam his hands through the conference table, but just bought it, and it's made of rare Altarian marble. You see, there was a mutiny on Falteres, Thill continues. Somewhere along the way, Cale Rightly's troops turned against him, and that mutiny was a success. When that happened, they named Mike Translow as their new military leader. This has yet to be accepted by the planet's leaders, but that could be a mere formality on their part. The people are apparently behind him. Gora smashes the rare table to pieces anyways, then curses in his native language under his breath, and using terms which can't be translated adequately to English. Continue, he demands while looking down at the wreckage of the table. Thill looks over at his counterpart, General Harral, and continues. The Falteres forces then went to the arcology and engaged in a battle Sabal had already started. Once found by Mike Translow, he moved unilaterally and exposed our forces to the Earthlings. This happened on camera, and the battle was sent to a shocked populace around their planet by their media. The entire planet's in hysterics and calling for blood. Idiot, Gora says of Sabal. Clearly, Harral agrees before continuing the story. Some of the Earthlings had been armed by Mike Translow, and their weapons were enough that they held their positions until reinforcements from Falteres showed up under the command of the Altarian known as Drajdan. It all happened fast. There's no way to plan for any of this. It would appear that Mike and Sabal fought in an elevator shaft or something. Intelligence is a little sketchy on that part. Sabal got Mike's personal transport device and went to Falteres. Then he kidnapped Mike Translow. He made it as far as the spaceport before Mike Translow captured him, and Sabal's in their custody now, with Mike declaring that their world is at war with ours. Gora leans back in his seat. He's allowing this alarming information to sink in. The perfect plan to take out a few arcologies and test things was all falling apart now. The testing had become a battle, and now the end game could not be realized without some serious planning. He was not going to be able to just fly to Falteres now without being shot at, arrested, or killed. The second stage, which would have killed everyone on Falteres, is dead in the water. His troops have failed and been exposed before the galaxy. It's all gone wrong. This was at least partially his own fault. He had known deep down Sabal was a loose cannon on some level, and he could go off if he had the chance, and it appears he got that chance. He could have sent someone else along to watch him and take him out if he had one of these crazy ideas in his head. It's a shame that their technology didn't allow for a time machine, but he had to deal with the cards before him. That meant dealing with the fact they're at war. Orders, sir, Thill asks. Gora sighs. We have to buy ourselves time. Mike may be their military leader, but he's not the leader of the entire planet. That job belongs to Talia Laris, and I need to talk to her before we move forward with anything. Talia will likely side with Translow. The people will pressure her to do so, Harral says. Gora manages to smile. Not easy considering the amount of bad news he's just been handed. This is a world that resisted war for decades. They won't be swayed that easily, and if I can create a cover story, then we can delay the actual war until they're lulled into a complacency. Thil and Haral exchange an uncertain look, and then Haral speaks to Gora. We hope you're right, sir. A cover story won't be easy with that kind of public exposure. Leave that to me, Gora growls. And that's where that scene ends. So we're up to like 20 pages before the end of the book.
Nice.
So I finally introduced Altel, which was a combination of a few different things that I had, again, the first time that I wrote it. And because originally the whole amphibious was actually Dradgton was the amphibious type. And I switched that. So there you go. There's your reading for tonight. I'm looking forward to the 20 cents. And and you know, it's a time killer. I don't mind doing this, and I think my wife enjoys it on some level. So
I've only been asking for you to read it for years, so
yeah, well, you know,
it only took a global pandemic to make it happen.
Well, because that was the promise. I said, you know what, if the whole globe has a pandemic, fine, I'll break down. And I was like, it's not going to happen, and here we are. So, all right, there you go. And yeah, what I did too was, now I mentioned before that I had decided that if somebody stepped onto Falteri's soil, then they had to die. With this book, I decided, no, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to have Mike not kill him. So I'm going to take what happened originally, which was that Gora went to Falteri's, and as soon as he set foot on Falteri's, I killed him off. And with this one, I went, nope, I'm going to reverse that. I'm not going to have Mike kill him. Because the other part of it was, I thought, you know, if Mike just flat out kills him, it's one of those you don't want to become the villain.
Right.
You don't want to become them. So it's one of those things where it was an internal, I mean, eventually shoots people in the face. But you got to at least, you know, discuss why he shoots people in the face and how. And you know, the after effects of that. So I didn't want him to just shoot him in the face. Well, that may have been something that might have made him happy in that moment. But, you know, yeah, Fish Monster. You're going to edit a book out, and you're going to edit out some bad words. Just, you go in and you find and replace. That's all I did was just find and replace with the actual swear words. And so, Fish Monster replaced something else that's not really a nice terminology involving parental relations. So, you know, that kind of thing. I guess parental relation monster I could have put in there too.
Could have.
Parental relationist. But, see? And now you guys can use that. Tell somebody, I think you're a parental relationist. And they won't have any clue what you're talking about. Because you don't actually say the words. So, alright, there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. We'll get through this. We'll figure it out. The whole globe's going through something, so we'll figure it out. The globe's going to figure it out. I have to believe in that. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and if you just thought, you know what, it's volume, I think it's volume like 20 or something, like part 20 or something. You're like, yeah, I got to watch this because I got to see what happens. Well, go back to the start and start over. And yeah, thanks for coming by and browsing your way through. And again, yeah, thank you guys so much for everything. I will talk to you again soon.